I would like to take this opportunity and welcome you, distinguished guests, speakers, colleagues, students, innovators, IP experts, IP enthusiasts. We welcome you on this day, which is UNISA World IP Day 2016. My name is Matseho Njumbuka. I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist from the DITTC, the Directorate for Innovation, Tech Transfer, and Commercialization. It's an honor to stand here and welcome you on behalf of UNISA today. Before we start, I'd like to go through a couple of house rules. Please, at all times, keep your phone on silent. We know it tends to disrupt proceedings, so please keep it on silent, keep it on vibrate. Secondly, if you haven't been to the toilets, they are outside the main door on your left, right? And thirdly, there's tea and coffee outside. If you didn't have time to go and help yourself, please do. You can bring your cups inside, have a muffin, have a biscuit on us. And finally, let me see. If you need any help with anything, I have my team from the DITTC here. Unfortunately, I don't see, oh yes. Ladies, please raise your hands. Those are my DITTC team inside here. So if you need, like for instance, if you want to ask questions, if you want to, if you need anything, they're here to assist. So this is supposed to be a conversation, right? It's supposed to be a robust conversation. We are going to open the floor to you guys to ask questions at all times, right? Well, depending on the speakers, if they want, if they want during their presentations to ask, for you to ask questions. But the point of today is to learn more, right? So don't leave here with any questions. Don't leave here with anything that you're inquiring on. Please ask. We have experts in the room. Take this opportunity and use it for your benefit. Without any further ado, I would like to call my colleague, Dr. Sia Ntutela, to come and welcome you officially. A round of applause for Sia.
Thank you, Matseho. And good morning, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Siabulela Ntutela, as my colleague said. I am from the DITTC as a business development specialist. This is the 26th chapter of the World IP Day. It was launched in year 2000, and we're here to celebrate. In this year's theme, they call it IP and sports. Ready, set, innovate. So we are ready to talk about IP. The ground is set, and we've got innovators that are ready to look at what they can do in this world of sport. We've got two very good guests that will tell us about what it is that IP and sport have in common. As a DITTC, we know that IP is the backbone of any economy, and even us at UNISA, we make sure that we protect the IP, which is why the DITTC was formed under the IPR Act of 2008. Its purpose of the DITTC, that is to safeguard UNISA's IP, is to make sure that all our IP within the institution is protected, is commercialized for public good, and more importantly, the innovators and the inventors are remunerated accordingly. As we know, the past of our history as a country is that most of our IP left our shores, benefited countries beyond our borders, and we became beneficiaries at a cost. So the DITTC and many other tech transfer offices, their purpose is to make sure that our country's IP is protected by us, and benefits our people. So I'm here to only welcome you today, colleagues. And as my colleague has said, it's a conversation. We're not here to just listen to the speakers and walk away. We are here to exchange our ideas, hear from them, but also hear from you as potential researchers, innovators, and IP custodians on what this space of IP is all about. So on my ground, I want to say welcome to this conversation, welcome to UNISA, and more importantly, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be using this microphone. I don't know, this one just restricts me. So we have come to the moment that we've all been waiting for. I would like to call my next guest, Advocate Leslie Sidibe, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Leslie Sidibe Inc. Attorneys. He is going to be talking about understanding IP in the sports industry, the fundamentals of IP rights in sports. Advocate Sidibe is a respected South African attorney, business leader, and executive with extensive experience spanning law, sports administration, public affairs, and economic development. He is the founder and CEO of Leslie Sidibe Inc. Attorneys and is widely recognized for his leadership within both the legal and sports sector in South Africa. He previously served as the CEO of the South African Football Association during a pivotal period in South Africa, including preparations surrounding the 2010 FIFA World Cup. His career has also included leadership roles focused on nation building, economic participation, and promoting local industry, notably as the CEO of Proudly South Africa, where he championed initiatives aimed at strengthening local procurement, entrepreneurship, and sustainable economic growth. He's an admitted advocate and accomplished strategist. He has built a reputation for his contribution to governance, leadership, and stakeholder engagement across both the public and private sector. He is passionate about youth empowerment, transformation, sports development, and creating platforms that drive innovation, collaboration, and socioeconomic impact in South Africa. I can't think of anyone else more worthy of being in front of us and teaching us about, or imparting knowledge about IP and sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Advocate Sidibe.
Dumela Maheso. I so when I listened to you, Matseho, I don't know where you got that information. Um, and I'm not an advocate. I don't want to be investigated again. Um, so every time I hear people talk about certain things that I've done, yes, I did work at SAFA, and for the record, I did suffer. It was a very painful experience. Um, so, how much time do I have, Prof? Thanks a lot for inviting me, and thank you for this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, I honor you, I respect you, and I'm sorry that there was a slight delay. Because we are talking IP, a lot of the stuff that I have here is actually very IP sensitive. And so I needed to manage the IP around it, but because of time, we've had to find. So I apologize for the late start. Before I start, I just want to do an exercise. Is there anyone in this room that has a hearing problem? Please raise your right hand. Is there anyone in this room that has a hearing problem? Is there anyone in this room that has a listening problem? So there's no one in the room that has a hearing problem and a listening problem. Okay, let's put that to the test. This is the part about me now where I become a pastor. So I thank everybody, all protocol observed. Okay, so just to make sure that we are all here, right? And we understand each other. We just want to check if you have a hearing problem or you have a listening problem? You have neither. Okay, let's put that to the test. Okay. Um, there is a team from Mamelodi called Mamelodi Sundowns. What's the sign for Mamelodi Sundowns? You know, Pezul. Okay. There is a team from Orlando called Orlando Pirates. Sorry, Orlando Pirates. What is the sign for Orlando Pirates? You can see all the. All right, so you're doing well. All right, what is the universal sign for peace? So even if you're a Pirates fan, this is wherever you go across the world, you will always find this sign. It's the biggest club in the whole world. That's the universal sign for peace. Okay. Can I ask that you raise your right hand, please? And sorry, I'm not going to say fire, fire, because I know some of you are scared. Okay, black people, this is called a thumb. It's called an index finger. I don't know what they call this, a middle finger. I don't want to show you my middle finger. And then there's the pinky and whatever. So this is what I want you to do for me, please. Can you please form a round circle using your index finger and your thumb? You got that? All right. Now, can I ask you to carefully put this round circle on your chin, please? I think we have a problem. Shall we all go home? Because I think some of you. Okay, black people, this is your chin. This is your chin. I raise this because I think one of the biggest challenges in life is our ability to listen. We often tell ourselves that we listen to people and yet we don't. There is a difference between hearing and listening. I don't want to get into the realm of politics. Let's just go to the slides. Is this me controlling? Oh yeah, it was me when I was still young and handsome. Right. Congratulations, Orlando Pirates. Last week was very dramatic. We will not comment on the investigations that will follow what happened on the pitch. It is what it is. What we are grateful for is that there was an outcome that has changed the trajectory that has hitherto led to one team leading and winning at all times. So congratulations, Orlando Pirates, and winning your treble. Congratulations. And then, of course, across, all of a sudden, everybody's an Arsenal fan. So congratulations, Arsenal, I know there are Arsenal fans. Any Arsenal fans here? There we go. So we all make mistakes. I mean, you can just... so yeah, there's another interesting slide about our friends from Arsenal, and the third team is Manchester United. The first team in South Africa is Orlando Pirates, and the third team is Kaizer Chiefs. And those that know will tell you there's a toxic collusion between those that are typically Kaizer Chiefs fans tend to be Manchester United fans. So we feel your pain, Amakosi. But let's just say this for the record. The statistics will tell you that Manchester United has won the Premier League 13 times. If you combine Manchester City and Chelsea's victories, you'll get close to what Manchester United has accomplished. Shampoo Arsenal, they've only won it the fourth time. Let's just give them a round of applause. And so for Kaizer Chiefs to be able to win, to go back to the glory days, this is the belief that if we can press that button every time the goal moves to the opposite end, then we will be able to, Kaizer Chiefs will stand a better chance. And it's doable. I need someone from tech. Can you please come? There's a presentation I need to switch to. If you don't mind, please come. Which is what I want to focus on. I just did that for my Kaiser Chiefs friends to give them hope that we can still do this. Can you close this and then go to the next presentation? What I would like us to do in the next couple of minutes is to focus our attention on the IP world, and in particular in terms of global sporting and what it means. It's this one called TT. Yeah. At some point in my life, I was the CEO of Proudly South African, and I had to come up with what I regard as an elevator speech of what actually Proudly South African means and what it represents. And I used an acrostic PRIDE, PRIDE, pride. And the P there, I would argue, that represents patriotism. We need to be very patriotic about our country, and we need to protect the integrity of the sovereignty of our country. It's important. In 1994, when it happened, South Africa was regarded as one of the greatest miracles on earth because there was an expectation that there would be bloodshed, bearing in mind that at the same time that there were political changes in South Africa, there was a genocide happening in Rwanda. And so I think it's quite important and necessary that as South Africans, we have this passion and the love for our country. And we do whatever it takes to protect our country. Unfortunately, I'll disappoint some of you. I do not believe that we have one of the best constitutions in the world. And if you have an issue with that, you can take it to your under 13 netball coach, and I'll debate it with the. We cannot honestly, we cannot talk with an open and an honest heart and say we have one of the best constitutions in the world when there is a legacy of colonialism and apartheid that we have not addressed. And Alexandra would not exist today if we had one of the best constitutions in the world. That's what I would argue. It's a footnote, but like I said, my netball coach is waiting outside. We can go and argue that principle with. The R there stood for reindustrialization. It is important that we turn our country into an industrial base. Instead of us exporting our mineral resources as a country, we should really have very intense and focused programs that seeks to beneficiate our minerals. In that way, we would be able to industrialize our country. We will industrialize our economy. People don't have to travel for more than 100 kilometers every day one way, going to work, and another 100 going back to work. There are people even in this room who literally travel no less than 50 kilometers to come. That is unproductive, that is silly. And that's a narrative that we need to change. Some of you need to go back to your villages where you come from and go and make a difference, because the villages that you come from are rich with minerals. All they need is for you to be able to build an industrial base. The I in the PRIDE stood for industrialization, and it also stands for innovation. We need to become a nation of innovators. The D stands for domestic consumption. We need to support our own local industries and support each other. And if you are somebody who is an entrepreneur, I just want to share something with you. It's a lesson learned, it's a footnote. Number one, it's important for you to know that a service, once it's rendered, it loses its value. Ask a funeral taker before the funeral, he is the centerpiece of civilization. Everybody listens to what the funeral undertaker says. After the funeral taker will be told, no, we are still waiting for the bank to process the payment, and then the story goes on. The E in PRIDE stands for entrepreneurship. It talks about education. And I'm one of those people who want to pay tribute to the generation of the fees must fall and the roads must fall generation, because they were telling us that there is something about the nature of the education that we have in our country that requires of this education to be decolonized. If you've got a problem with that, we can meet in Alex and we'll have that conversation. Now, as the country tries to reposition, there is something that I want to share with you, and I'm going to ask you, please, this is proprietary information, because many of you are not aware of the controversy. You remember there was that story about the sponsorship of Tottenham? by South Africa. Remember that story. I want to walk you through it as a case study because I think it becomes very relevant to our conversation today. Whatever your views are about Paul Kagame, is it Kagame? Yeah, Paul Kagame. I know people from Polokwane, that's how they pronounce. They no longer say Polokwane, it's Polokwane. Okay, so this is the one thing that Paul Kagame did brilliantly, was to see the marketing opportunity and the value in the Arsenal team. If you look at the sleeve of the Arsenal jersey, it's written, visit Rwanda. So South Africa tried to copy that. And they had a conversation with Tottenham. And let me just walk you through that proposition. Can you please, yeah, thank you. So it was a partnership between South Africa and a global brand, focusing on grassroots to the professional stage. And the idea was that you would use the South Africa brand, same way as with Visit Rwanda, and you would, for marketing purposes, you would endorse Tottenham. Now, one of the problems that we have, unfortunately, is when it comes to the use of public funds, we obviously have to be very careful. The difficulty that you have is that sometimes when you get people that are not qualified to make marketing calls, make those calls, they miss the mark. So that was the plan, and that was the idea, that you would have one of the biggest clubs, certainly in the world. And let me just show you the statistics of what we're really talking about here. Football as a sport, and these statistics are 2 years behind. Statistically, there are, in the world, there is about 6 billion people, minus those that we lost through COVID, plus those that are being born today. But generally, the people that are interested in football globally, they are estimated to be, out of the 6 billion people in the world, there's an estimate of about 3.75 billion people who are interested in football. The game of football is broadcast in over 200 countries in the world. How many countries do we have in the world? That's your homework. The cumulative audience in the English Premier League is estimated to be over 3.5 billion. 3.5 billion. So it is a very powerful platform. Football is, and by the way, so we are talking about sports, and the speaker that will come after me will probably focus on other aspects of the sporting industry. I'm only talking about football as a sample of a larger opportunity that exists in the world. And according to the statistics, the football industry, there is more than, by now, close to 4 billion people in the world are interested in football. The rest don't have taste. Okay. Did I say that? Okay. So that was the idea with this sponsorship of South Africa and Tottenham. That you would have on the sleeve the Tottenham, the South Africa name. And one of the opportunities that existed in that opportunity, and I want to qualify everything I'm going to say, this presentation is proprietary, it's not even mine. So just bear that in mind. I want to acknowledge the sources and the people that put it together. I want to acknowledge the intellectual property that resides. So if we talk about the intellectual property that resides in the game, the proposal there was for South Africa as a partner to have access and the use of the IP, the club IP, including the marks, the static imagery, and the footage. there is a mark that you will see. There is the Tottenham mark, and you would then come up with a hybrid logo that has South Africa and it has Tottenham as a logo that would be used. And then there is obviously the players, and South Africa was to then have the ability to use the players. Incidentally, these are the type of conversations whenever the players go into camp after they've been selected. So it's a very difficult one to understand. And as someone who was involved in this process, I had to leave South Africa to go to Germany to go and negotiate the player bonuses. You could not have that conversation in South Africa, not because it was not safe to do so, but purely because the squad was selected. And until the squad is selected, you never really know who to talk to until the selection of the squad. Does it make sense? And it is only at that point that you begin to negotiate rights with the players. And some of the rights that you negotiate with the players, you need to make sure that they are consistent with the other rights that the player would have granted, for example, to their club. So if the player has given image rights to the club, what I mean by image rights is, for example, the fact that I mean, if you put up a picture of a Ronaldo, I see the ladies are smiling. If you put up a picture of Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Boya Saka, there are many players out there in the world. I nearly said Dr. Kumalo. You put up an image of Dr. Kumalo. Where are you going after this? Where to from here, doctor? No, we're going home. We're going home. Jabu Pule. Oh, sorry, Jabu Mashangu, right? If you are going to use those images of the players and you do not have rights to do so, you would end up with a legal challenge. Does that make sense? Not only is the issue about the image, but it's also about the player's name and other biographical details. So I own my story. I own my rights in totality as a player. And the same could be said even in music. As beautiful as you are, my sister, you can't wake up tomorrow and start using Beyonce and say, I look like Beyonce. And start telling the world how you and Beyonce are related when you're not. So it is those type of rights that one seeks to protect. Then there was going to be the use of the composite logo and the usage of footage. Now, the broadcast footage. Now, you would know this as IP students that when a football match is played, it's an unscripted performance. Do you agree? Yes. And because it's an unscripted performance, the IP that subsequently emerges from the unscripted performance is the cinematograph film, which is the recording of the match, to which copyright vests. So there is all types of permutations insofar as image rights are concerned. So that's one of the big issues. You have the kit. For example, the idea was that you would use the brand South Africa. So South Africa is a brand. You do know of an entity called Brand South Africa. So South Africa is a brand. I'm not going to get involved in the debates about whether South Africa is indeed a country, because even the name Africa is not from Africa. It's a contested name. And so that's why others have called it Azania. But I won't get into that. So for now, let's stick with South Africa because I think it makes you sleep well at night. And I don't want to disturb your theology about 1652. It's an unfinished story, unfinished business that must be resolved. So the idea is that when Arsenal puts on that red jersey, that's their home kit, you would have the brand South Africa on that kit. But then you can also say your rights are only restricted to the home kit and not the away kit. Or your rights are only for the away kit and not the home kit. And you can also say that your rights are restricted to the training kit and not to the team home team, home jersey, and the away jersey. There are all types of permutations. And if you have different teams within your stable, so you have, for example, Bafana Bafana, you have Bafana Bafana, you have Banyana, Amajimbos, and so it goes on to your junior teams. There are different tiers of sponsorship, right? There are different tiers of sponsorship. The more money you pay, the more rights you get, right? So for example, you saw yesterday or day before when the squad was announced, you saw Standard Bank had their logo, their name on the kit that the players were wearing. Did you see that? Right. FIFA is not going to tolerate that nonsense when they go to the World Cup. They can only enjoy it now. Standard Bank will only enjoy that for now. When you go into the actual tournament, you present yourself with a clean jersey because there would be conflicts with some of the sponsors that are FIFA sponsors when you participate in a tournament. So FIFA has a different categorization of their what you would call it a sponsorship. So firstly, they have at the top tier, those are the ones that have the most comprehensive rights. They are called the official partners, right? So if, for example, you are, if Hyundai is an official FIFA partner, a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz will not be allowed into a FIFA tournament. In terms of, you cannot drive your team in a Mercedes-Benz bus when the official sponsor of a tournament is Hyundai. Does that make sense? Right. And then there is the second tier of sponsorship, for example, would be if the tournament is in South Africa, for example, we had FNB as a sponsor. It was a national supporter. So there are different tiers of sponsorship. And so the nature of the sponsorship and the amount of money that you pay for the sponsorship has certain benefits that go with it, including ticket allocation rights and certain marketing rights, which become very critical and central. And that is why whenever there's a tournament that is hosted by FIFA, for example, did I say FIFA? Yeah, FIFA. Whenever there is a FIFA tournament, you have a principle called the clean stadium. And by a clean stadium, it means that the venue must be clean. So for example, if there is a UNISA branding here, and FIFA wanted to have FIFA wanted to have an event, they will want you to cover that branding. That is the clean stadium principle. Okay, so that is really what was under discussion, that you would have a jersey that has different types of sponsors. So this is your kit sponsor, and that is the logo of the team, and this is the main sponsor for the team. But that you would then give the country the branding rights on the sleeve, right? Depending how much money you want to pay, this can move from there to here. Do you understand? That follow? Okay. So those are some of the IP rights that we talk about. So just in terms of statistics, we said globally, the interest in the sport of football, it's over 3.5 billion. And this slide over here shows you by territory. Of course, this is mainly targeted at the European market and not the South African market. And so the English Premier League, believe it or not, takes the biggest chunk. Most of you are sellouts, and you're spending most of your time watching the English Premier League, 2.7 billion out of the 3.5 billion. Then La Liga, where the best teams in the world play, like Barcelona, there's 1.2. If you are a Real Madrid supporter, I sympathize with you. It's 1.2 billion. And then you go to the Bundesliga. You know, Harry Kane, the first time he won a trophy, Tottenham was doing that well. So the Bundesliga is about 1 billion. I have had an opportunity to spend time in Germany and to study their game and to study what they do and what they did after the 2006 FIFA World Cup. And I can tell you that this model, the Bundesliga, presents a better opportunity for us as a country if we are to study it, and we can debate that one day. The Serie A is about 761, and then the French league is about 398 million. Are we together? I'm just going to run through some of these. Once you become what you call a partner with a team, there are certain benefits that follow being part of that team, including understanding the support base that the team has. So for example, Tottenham, according to their propaganda, they have over 600 million support across the world, and they are engaged in over 80 million social media platforms. Just moving along because of time. Okay, so in terms of the rights that were under discussion, they were looking at about giving access to the country to have access to 4 players and former legends of the club, access to the manager, brand partner campaign amplifications, and performances at their venues. So the idea was that whenever you go to a Tottenham match, you would have, as a country, access to those benefits. I'm not here to justify the opportunity. I'm merely here to make the point that I'm using this as a sample of what the intention was from a branding perspective and what the opportunities were. So, for example, some of the opportunities were stadium hospitality and stadium tours. If you can, in your life, before you die, you do realize that I'm going to die, right? It's not about you, bro. I'm not a prophet. Jesus! I'm sorry, bro. It wasn't about you. Yeah, you even had to take off your head. If you don't mind, just on your bucket list, just make time to do a stadium visit. Just visit a stadium. You can start with Orlando Stadium. Oh, Amstel Arena. Excuse me. Hello. Okay. Visit Amstel Arena. Okay. And I'm glad you said that because Amstel has the naming rights to the stadium. Do you understand? Which is why during the World Cup, FNB Stadium was called Soccer City, right? Now, here is what I encourage you to do. And here's, by the way, let me just get political for a minute. How much do you think Orlando Stadium was built for? Okay, how much do you think the Mbombela Stadium was built for? During the World Cup, as part of the lead up. By the way, Orlando Stadium and Mbombela Stadium and Peter Mokaba, is Peter Mokaba in Polokwane? Yeah. They were built at the same time. How much do you think Peter Mokaba was built for and Mbombela Stadium was built for? Just give me a number, any. Sorry? Okay, so initially when the stadium construction started, these stadiums were going to be about 1 point something billion, but with cost overruns, they ended up being more than 3 billion or close to 3 billion. How much do you think Orlando Stadium was built for? At the same time when all the stadiums were being built. How much? 5 billion. Orlando Stadium was built for less than 400 million. And yet Orlando Stadium is a FIFA compliant stadium. It has 40,000 capacity with hospitality built into it. You ask yourself, who are the real criminals? Okay, the stadiums were all built at the same time. And yet, the one stadium, which was not a designated stadium for the FIFA World Cup, which is really the mecca of South African football in the country. I can tell there's an Orlando Pirates fan over there. That stadium was built for less than 400 million. Other stadiums were built close to 3 billion rands, and they are not doing as well as they should. I can write a book about what happened, but I ain't gonna do it now because I wanna be 60. Okay, so these are some of the opportunities that were meant to be made available. So one of the other opportunities that existed as part of that deal was, okay, so I mentioned that the need for you to visit the stadium. Okay, so let's take a look at this stadium, the Cape Town Stadium, right? So this Cape Town Stadium was built around what is called an area in Cape Town called Molly Point. So when you drive towards the island of Slay Queens, which is somewhere there, you do know Slay Queens, right? Yeah. If you want to see a Slay Queen, just go there. Because I see some of you are confused. You don't know what Slay Queens are. Anyway, so the issue here around the stadium, you'll see there's a membrane that covers the stadium. That's just there to protect, is the wind, yeah, to protect the wind. And the idea was actually at some point to close the stadium, same way as they tried with the Benabo. And then there were white people who were not happy that the stadium is being built there. And they had what is called the NIMBY principle. You know what NIMBY is? Not in my backyard. Yes, there was the NIMBY principle that we had to deal with. But why I raise this is because when you visit other stadiums in the world, like the Tottenham Stadium, they actually have capacity for Formula One. So you can actually convert these stadiums for multi-purposes, that you can actually even host major events. Because of time, I'm going to just wind down my presentation and suggest to you that there is a lot of IP that resides in the sporting fraternity. It's an industry that, unfortunately, in South Africa, it has not yet reached its maturity level. And I'll give you an example. How much do you think is a cost of a ticket to a PSL match? Do you know? Have you been to a PSL match, boss? Yeah, I go on, only 2000. I'm sure Limahuli in Black Rovers are with with Bengay boss. Does anybody know how much an average price of a PSL match is? How much? Well, at some point it was 30 rands, and then I think they tried to push it up to about 50. And how much do you think is the price of a rugby match? Now, she talks with confidence. I love you. Can you see the problem with the economy? What is my point? My point is that, and in this regard, I challenge you to go and read a book by a man called Hernando de Soto, entitled The Mystery of Capital. How capitalism works in the West and yet it struggles everywhere else in the world. It is the mystery of capital. It's by Hernando de Soto. He's a Peruvian economist. Another book I suggest you read is by Walter Rodney called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Right? Walter Rodney. It's out of print. If you want to get access to it, please make sure that you are nice to me and that you are nice to your librarian, because that's the person who will assist you to get it. But it's a very good book. Why I raise these two books is because it is important for us to understand the economy, the global economy in sport. And here is my dream and my wish. My dream and my wish is that Europe can give back to Africa what it stole. It was stolen through very violent means. If you look at the Arsenal squad, and you look at the DNA of the team, of the players, and you're going to see this in the World Cup that's starting in the next couple of days. The players that are ranked the top in the world are players of African descent. And yet Africa has never won the World Cup. And yet Africa's children perform and do well on a global stage. With this performance of these African giants, and we need to pay tribute to them, there are all types of intellectual property that goes with it. And with it also goes, and I love what Orlando Pirates did. They win the championship, whatever the circumstances were, the next week or the next couple of days, they launch their kits, the kit. And I must tell you, it is a beautiful kit. People that, no, you just have to, Oscar Balimona, maybe no more. Nakaratan to the grand. Yeah, I like good, I like them good things. One of the things that the chairman knows and understands is how to monetize. And the timing of the release of that kit, the momentum is high. Everybody's still excited. I can tell you, even now at Christmas, Kaizer Chiefs fans are going to buy the Pirates kit. You would do it because it is beautiful. You would do it because you are a child of Orlando Pirates as Kaizer Chiefs. Right. Why this is important is because there are all types of, hey, by the way, we're not having this conversation because this is about money, black people. Sorry, my sister. You're one of us. We're together, right? Okay. I'm going to close with a scripture from the Bible. I'm going to close with a scripture from the Bible. And I know some of you ain't been to church in a while. So I'm coming to your assistance. They often tell you that money is the root of all evil. It is not. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Then I came across this scripture in the book of Ecclesiastes. And this is what the Bible says in Ecclesiastes. This is what the Bible says. It says, now I must find this verse. What the Bible says in Ecclesiastes is that money answers all things. Ecclesiastes 10, verse 19. This is what the Bible says. It says, bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. I'm done. Money answers everything. Whatever you do, always ask yourself, am I making money or am I losing money? But having said that about money, I'm not saying that we must forget about this one thing that makes us who we are as African people. What is the one thing that defines us as African people, my brother? One word. Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Now, those of you who believe that our constitution is the best in the world, answer me this. Why is the word Ubuntu not in the constitution? That's my first question. Number two, why was the word Ubuntu taken out of the constitution? It was there in the interim constitution, and it was taken out. What is Ubuntu? There are certain core pillars that makes the Ubuntu principle. Pillar number one, it says, Umuntu, Gumuntu, Gabantu. Mutu, Kimutu, Gabatu. That's pillar number one. Pillar number two says, Feta komu, utware mutu. Feta komu, utware mutu. What that means is that in Africa, if there's a choice between a cow and a human being, you'll always go for the human being. Number three, Khosi ke khosi ka morafe. Khosi ke khosi ka morafe.
In other words, I can never be a leader unless there are people that support me. I derive my mandate from the people. Pillar number 4, Molatu awoli. Molatu awoli. Which is why I have a problem with this ontology of Roman Dutch law, which is nothing else. What we call the common law in South Africa today is nothing more, nothing less than African customary law in Europe. Now, in Europe, they have a thing called prescription. In Africa, molato awubuli. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Advocate. That was absolutely brilliant. We are going to open the floor now for any questions that we might have for the Advocate. Yes. Let's see if do the microphones work? These microphones. Does it work? Oh, perfect.
My question starts with advocate. As we know that there's new technological drive around the globe. As you know that there's a major shift in terms of the way sports is been developed. One of them in terms of the technological perspective is it's a e-sport. What are the chances actually of IP development in terms of the esports side of things, in terms of the new development in terms of the esports with regards to the AI integration? So what is the chances of defending, able to draft policies that will safeguard the IP in that space, because of AI now makes things much easier in terms of research also and innovation, because of now you can able to innovate things using AI. So in terms of that, forms.
Colleague will probably deal with issues around the protection of copyright. I just wanted to create space for her to deal with some of these issues. Is that fine? That's your space.
Okay.
But I just want to raise this issue. What is AI? Because you see, I think one of the things that we have allowed is we've allowed thieves to permeate into our thinking by stealing the works of others. Because AI is nothing short of an amalgamation and a reconfiguration of what existed before, right? I mean, AI is nothing but a COSATU of computers across the world. They get together, well, maybe I use COSATU as a, but really they just come together and they share information, and they generate, because there's what is called generative AI. You didn't think I know that. So here's the thing, right? The thing about AI, remember that, and those of you that are interested in this AI discussions, there is a very interesting series on Netflix called Person of Interest. Person of Interest. I must warn you, it's a 5 series and it's addictive. It's addictive. Your relationship might be at risk.
But to your point, you talk about esports and you're talking about, which is why, I mean, this is the joke, right? Let me share the joke with you. Your own government, in developing the policy on AI, they used AI. So what has it done? One of the things that AI is breeding is a generation of lazy people. It kills innovation. There's a judge who's in trouble today. He's an acting judge. He's in trouble today who allowed somebody to write a judgment for this judge using AI. We must never allow some of these things to take our ability to push our frontiers of knowledge. But remember, there are certain things that are out of your control. What is out of your control is the technology. The one thing about technology and capitalism is that capitalism is very self-destructive, right? So one form of capitalism replaces the other. I'm saying this, I'm not bragging, but one of the cars I enjoy driving is my Jaguar. It's a vintage. It still has cassettes. And then this, my 2000, when you ask them for a CD, they're like, what is that? Right? Because today, you can just tell the phone, play Beyonce, and they go, Beyonce, Rolling Next. So technology is good in that sense. I mean, there is some advancement, but we must not lose sight of the basics of it. So I was in the music industry in the days of Napster. Do you remember Napster? There was a guy called Steve Jobs. You know Steve Jobs, the guy with Apple. Now, Steve Jobs was called by the music industry, very upset with him, with what he was doing. At the time, he did the iPod, right? You know what he said to them? Our boss is overseas. He says, F you catch us if you can. So there is always this tension between the legislative framework in trying to catch up with technology. I think we can all agree in this room that there is no piece of legislation that can cover all foreseeabilities and possibilities. So there'll always be, the technology will always be ahead of time, and that the legislation would have to catch up. But what that means is that if, for example, the DNA and the nucleus of our legal system is robust enough, and you have, I don't know what training judges have in South Africa today, if you were to put an AI case in front of them, I shudder to think what the outcome of that case is going to be. I don't want to be called in for disciplinary hearings, but I can tell you that the people that are writing judgments today, they themselves are battling. So I'll tell you what's happening in our legal system today. We have a system called Caseline. So because our comrades used to make files disappear, there is now an electronic archiving of documents. So you can literally present your case online. And there's actually no need, other than in a trial, there's no any need to go to court, especially in motion proceedings. You can argue your case virtually wearing just a euro, but underneath we can't comment. But you can win, you can actually argue your matter in court. And for that, we must be grateful for the technology. I think we are together on that. And so there will always be this tension. I wish I had an answer for you, my brother, that will make you happy. But you can go and tell your friends over the weekend that ngishayile pari azang angiphendule kena.
Okay. And then the second one, actually, which is the last one. What does the role of IT audit plays in terms of the development of IP in the sports industry as a whole, and us, maybe for instance, me as an audit, a professional, actually. What kind? No. Actually, I'm just illustrating. Yeah, it's just an illustrating. Okay.
Ask you a question. What happens in an audit?
Okay.
What
how
are the
you
key
asking?
principles in an audit?
Okay. The key principles of an audit is to investigate, actually, is to investigate, to do gather information or evidence that will support whatever report that you are stating.
Okay, what are the key guiding principles in an audit? So principle number one is you look at what should happen versus what happened. Am I correct? Right? So that's what you do. You say, here is the policy. The policy says we must do X, Y, and Z, right? In an audit, we look to what the policy says and what actually happened. And from that, and that is why I'm one person who would argue that there's a difference between history, a historian, and a historiographer. There is a difference between history and historiography. History is Jan van Riebeeck landed in the Cape of Good Hope in 1652. That's history. Historiography says that bastard landed there because they needed to steal. I'm the historiographer now. I'm interpreting what happened. And that is what I believe the role of audit is. The role of audit is, I've looked at this IT environment. Having conducted the IT, this is how the organization can then move forward. Then you push that to, as part of your audit plan going forward, to say, we've learned the following lessons from this audit. And based on these outcomes, we believe as an organization that our IT strategy needs to go to change in this particular direction. So for example, if in your audit you are using faxes, you will discover that there's a thing called email. Therefore, your strategy moves from using faxes to going towards using emails. Do you understand? And then it gets better than that, because beyond emails, there are other forms of communication. If your IT strategy says we are going to buy computers, and then someone says, but hold on a minute, there are laptops. You can actually, so one of the interesting things, one of my friends happens to be, oh, by the way, people that I call my friends, most of them are over 70, and I'm not in their will. But here's the thing, because I wrote the will, so I can't. So one of the things that he says to me, he says, Discovery, Discovery? So he sits on the board of Discovery. So during COVID, people were working from home, right? And then all of a sudden it hit them. You actually can run this business without people coming to the office. So we now move from the physical to the virtual. So your IT strategy your IT audit must be able to inform your IT strategy to say, guys, we don't always have to have a conference at UNISA where we must bus people in and then accommodate them in fancy hotels. We can actually send them a link. They join the meeting, we still get the business done. So those comrades who are in marketing, and I'm not undoing you, I'm just mentioning as an example. I hope it answers. I mean, my netball coach is waiting outside. We can have that conversation outside. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
For every match, and after the World Cup, this died out. What happened? What happened? How did we lose that instrument of sport and enthusiasm through IP?
So who made the Vuvuzela? Yes, sir. Who made the Vuvuzela? You see, the one mistake we made as a country, do you have an answer to that? Yes.
past, traditionally, uh, especially in Africa, traditional healers, the hunters actually, or the Khoisan, usually when they call, you know, uh, for instance, when they send a message, actually, they used to use a horn, buffalo horn. It was a means of communication to massive or the next village and said, "There's a fire here, come help." Yeah, so the Vuvuzela came into that.
Okay, but let's talk specifically about this. Because I think if you ask me, my brother, from an IP perspective, as a country, we lost it. It was something that was deeply embedded in our football culture. And go and watch the videos. So I was a CEO at the time, and I irritated everybody. And quite frankly, I don't give a flying cat who got irritated. I said, Vuvuzelas will be used at the stadium. I said it. I was not authorized, but I said it. They could fire me if they wanted to. They would have done me a favor anyway. So here's the thing. We lost out on an opportunity. Part of the problem, though, is that, hey, those things are noisy. Eh? They are. But it's part of our culture. It's part of how we enjoy the game of football in South Africa. So I challenge this epistemology that says, because I argued with the Germans and those guys from FIFA telling us, no, people must clap and sing and say, hey, man, you are in South Africa. This is how we celebrate. One of the lost opportunities of the 2010 FIFA World Cup is that we did not monetize as a country and create an industry and an IP world around the Vuvuzela. It's a lost opportunity. I'll be the first one to concede. I deeply regret it. Don't make me cry. Yes, sir.
Follow up on the same question by Dr. Siade. If using my question based on your definition of that acronym PRIDE, P being patriotism, and if you are saying we ought to be patriotic, why then didn't we, as a country, after everyone had left, all the Germans and everybody else was bitching about the noise of the vuvuzela, still remain using it in the country, commercializing it or leveraging on it? Because it is that one thing, based on what you are saying, that could have amplified our culture of football. Why have we not done that? Why are we still continuing to miss the opportunity to make use of it? Because it is that one thing that distinguishes us from the others.
Okay, do people still use the vuvuzelas? Not as much. Is this something, was there a press statement where people were told don't bring vuvuzelas to the stadium? So it just died down on its own, right? Okay. Do you know the name Bafana Bafana? Bafana Bafana? Do you know that SAFA does not own that name? For the very same reason that we don't own the Bafana Bafana name, that we allowed the Vuvuzela culture to die as an industry. It's a leadership question. My own view is that the current leadership in football must go. We need young people with fresh and innovative ideas. We need young people who are passionate about the country. We need young people who will take our football forward. They've done their part, they must go and rest. They must all step down as far as I'm concerned. It's just me, and I'm happy to debate it with them.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Advocate Oitzida, the super fan here, they like to ask. We're not promoting.
Is that a fan, bro?
Yeah.
Shem, you're special. Man. What's your name?
Oh, it's David Ngubuka.
So I can't hear you,
it was
bro.
just dealing-
I can't hear you.
It was developed during COVID, and they spread germs there by the stadiums. That's the analogy for the thing. If I'm here, audible.
My brother, we're struggling to hear you. If you could just remove the very white voice.
Oh, let's see. So, yeah, thanks. Yeah, man, advocate. We wanted to now to ask this contentious issue here, especially towards this World Cup, this event which we are approaching, especially when we see, thing is that country that's going to be hosting this event is very racist. It's very racist. So we would like to understand now who will be developing the IP for the statements for non-racialism, especially during this advent of the co-pilot of the war of America and Israel. So we like to understand who's be responsible to monitor, to audit the racism that will be eventually taking place or will occur during the, will be any IP requirements or just court judgments or stuff like that. Thanks. With that president of theirs. We're not promoting Kit Kat, so.
So here is one of my favorite quotations by Bob Marley. Bob Marley says, "You will never find justice in a world where criminals make the rules." I think I've answered you.
Okay, I just wanted to add on what you're saying. Agree with you with regards to leadership. That is too old, first thing. But I want to answer our leader there from Tshwane. I think earlier on you spoke about how capitalism works, and IP basically states that, you know, with regards to inventorship, you need to point out who came up with this thing. And I think that is the issue sometimes with Vuvuzela or whatever innovation that comes about. So until we get to a point where people are conscientized and taught about things like, when you come up with something, look for someone who can help you to try and protect it. Look for, you know, I'm from UP here, UNISA. We are open to come and listen to the general public whenever they need information in terms of, you know, how to protect their IP. For instance, we've got tax innovation where entrepreneurs can come and be incubated there. So I think we need to create a culture of teaching people about IP, because these opportunities are going to come and go. A few years ago, I think 20 years ago, South Africa missed out on lithium-ion technology because our government was too concentrated on apartheid. We could have been one of the leading countries in lithium-ion technology. CSIR had cutting-edge technology, but we did nothing with it because there was no national strategy around that. So I think even with regards to sports, our sports players need to know and have an IP strategy. For instance, I'm a gamer. I was playing EAFC with Mbegezeni Mbogazi, put him in my team. But I'm not sure if his team knows that he needs to get something for his likeliness being used in a game like that. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, so you've said a mouthful. Couple of things just to pick up on what you said. Number one, I think one of the things that we need to inculcate in our children, because most of you, you're hopeless, at least give it to our children, right? What we need to do is to teach our children to understand the value of brands and how to build a brand, and how to monetize the brand. Unfortunately, policy in South Africa is driven by politicians. Most of them have never even owned a company worth R1 million. And they don't even, they are clueless. And that is why it's important to have young people, and that's why I said, I love the fees must fall and the roads must fall generation. And that thing was systematically neutralized because people knew the power of youth. We must unleash the potential of our young people, because it is only in, I mean, here we are. I'll give you an example. National Development Plan. It was announced in 2011. that by 2030, South Africa will look. We are 4 years away from that. How far are we from 2011 to 2030 to where we are today? In 4 years' time, are we going to achieve those goals that are in the NDP? They are not. Since 1994, we have had how many macroeconomic policy framework shifts? It was RDP, it was Ready to Govern, it was GEAR, as GISA, and I think then there's NDP, and then there was NGP. So instead of us go to countries like Singapore, governments change, but the macroeconomic policy framework remains the same. So the point I'm making to buttress what you're saying is precisely that. You have a player that you play in gaming, but back to the club, nobody draws the connection to say, hey man, our player's image and name and the whole bundle of rights that go with him are being exploited and we're not getting anything out of it. So I think we need to have a national dialogue. Instead of talking about slave queens, can we be serious about this economy for a change? Let's build trees that we know very well that we may not eat their fruits, or we may not even rest under their shade. But for the sake of our children, please, let's fix this country. That's all I have to say about that. There was another hand at the back. Yeah, because you're getting an invoice now.
Good morning, colleagues. My question is based on our laws as a country. Do we have enough adequate intellectual property laws? There is addressing the digital sports privacy, and also what can be done to strengthen our IP enforcement in the sports industry?
Are you going to answer that? In your presentation. So she will deal with some of these because, so when you talk about intellectual property, there are different types of laws that we have in this country. We've got the Copyright Act, we've got the Trademarks Act, we've got the Patent Act, we've got the Electronic Communications Act. There are all types of laws that we have in our country. Are those laws inadequate or adequate? And are they fit for purpose? I will argue that some of them fall short. Just to give you an example, if you go to the Copyright Amendment Act, I mean, as things currently stand, it is this act that we operate under. It was enacted in 1978. They knew they were going to kill Steve Biko the following year, but anyway, so this Copyright Act has not had any major significant amendments until very recently. And even now, we are still waiting for the Constitutional Court to deliver the judgment on the Copyright Amendment Bill. Agreed? And so, part of the challenge that I have with your question is that you have a constitution that talks about its own supremacy, right? You talk about the supremacy of the Constitution in South Africa. And yet the very same Constitution violates the essence of who we are as African. Go to section 211 of the Constitution. What does it say? It says that African customary law will be recognized as law subject to this law, being the Constitution. In other words, African people and their culture and their traditions will only be recognized, they are being subjected to European laws. European common law takes precedence. And so the question is, who wrote the Constitution? And the anterior question to that is, who wrote the Freedom Charter? Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Because therein lies your problem as to how these laws So, for example, something that comes out of America, we take very seriously. And yet we've got our own indigenous knowledge systems that we treat with contempt. African artwork. Take the case of Sarah Batman. How she was humiliated and displayed in Europe. Take most of the wealth that was stolen from African people by Europeans, including the lives of African people that ended up in the Europeans, in the Americas. The problem that we have today is that we live in a white world that is anti-black and that is anti-African. And so, until such time that there's a level of consciousness in our politics, and we have young people who are able to say, let us change this ontology and make sure that our laws talk to our situations as African, that we begin to see value in the things that we create as Africans. We have a problem. Last question before I go. I know we're not okay, chance. I guess we've agreed. You and I are meeting in the parking lot.
Okay. Morning, colleagues. Okay. Morning, colleagues. The advocate has just mentioned that we lost an opportunity with the Vuvuzelas and Bafana Bafana in not, yeah.
So there's an old trick, they say 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Is it, am I audible? Am I okay?
Yeah, please put it closer to your mouth.
Yeah, an advocate has just mentioned that we lost an opportunity in not commercializing Bafana Bafana. We know that now there is somebody who owns Bafana Bafana. But my question is, who owns the brand, the name of Bafana Bafana? Like, if I'm an entrepreneur and I see an opportunity in indigenous trees. For example, I'll mention there's a certain tree called Murula fruit and then toro. I'm not sure if there are some people who knows about this toro and muchidi. Those fruits are normally found in rural areas they are normally found in rural areas. If I'm an entrepreneur and I want to own those products, those trees, I want to commercialize them because I see an opportunity, a business opportunity on those trees. Is it possible for me to get an IP, to commercialize those products and protect them using IP?
Okay, so the simple answer to your question is yes, you can commercialize them. As a matter of interest, okay, now you'll understand why this issue about capitalism irritates me, right? And why we need to decolonize this country, especially the mindset. That's what Ngugi said. A number of levels. Number one, you have a very strong pharmaceutical industry that really pumps money into lobbying, right? Try and get a product registered with SAPRA. There are all sorts of protocols that you have to go through. Does an average entrepreneur have money to go through? Do you know how expensive it is to go through some of these things? We had COVID. Then they gave us these jabs, which was really a nice way of killing us softly. Killing me softly with this jab. Killing me softly. So they were killing us softly with this thing. Most people that survive COVID, they relied, for example, on lengana. One thing that I hate the most about colonialism and racism and white supremacy is that it sought to dehumanize, not only to dehumanize, but also to say that everything that is African that is offered as a solution to a health problem is demonized, is barbarian, and it is foreign to them. But you see, to us, I'll tell you, my brother, quite openly and candidly, my favorite dish, chicken feet. Because in chicken feet, I'm able to find something that works in my body system. You see the stickiness in the chicken feet? Do you know what it is? Collagen. So they would rather pharmaceuticals package it and sell it to you in a fancy product. Ah, man, just go to Alex at the taxi rank, buy motona di cook them, and eat the bloody thing. You'll have two joys. One, you would have eaten the most amazing creature that's ever walked on the African soil. Number two, you'll get collagen. So the issue that you are raising, my brother, actually is one of those things that must make all of us as a country to pause. I'll give you an example. When it comes to the renewable industry, particularly solar, photovoltaic, these solar panels, they are made out of, do you know that actually, first of all, that solar panels is an IP that comes out of South Africa? Did you know that? Oh, yes, it is. During the apartheid, in the apartheid days, and by the way, so I'm one of those people, I have issues with you guys calling the current state post-apartheid South Africa. It's not. There is no such thing as a post-apartheid South Africa, because apartheid is still with us. There is no such thing. Rather say post-1994. It's more politically correct and intellectually sound to say post-1994 than say post-apartheid, because there is no such thing as post-apartheid. Because what you do is you are actually annihilating. Professor Mogobe Ramosi actually deals with this point about the memory of conquest. I digress. So, my brother, one of the things that we really need to do as a country is precisely that. You have solar panels. The source for the panels that you use for solar, for example, they come from Limpopo. Yes, it comes from the trees in Limpopo. So one of the things that we need to do as a country, and it's quite sad, is we have not begun to see the value of IP. We have not. And part of the problem is that the people that are supposed to be driving this policy themselves, they don't understand it. And that is why we are in this quagmire. There is a lot of value, but you must remember that Murula is an African tree. You don't own it. Your people own it. So whatever innovative means that you come to transform it into something that substantially is transformed and is able to become marketable and sellable in the open market, and you're able to make money, for goodness sake, remember the community that you come from. Don't be like this greedy capitalist who don't care about our people. I have a problem with them. They steal from our people. So the essence of what I'm saying, yes, you can commercialize it, but you must remember that you do not own it. You exist, we exist as African in three forms. Go and read Professor Mogobe's writings on this. There is the dead, there is the living, and there's a living dead. You owe it to all of them.
Great answer. Thank you so much. Brilliant, wealth, absolute wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much, Advocate. A round of applause for Advocate again, please. And just, oh.
So the last time I had a standing ovation, nobody came back.
Standing ovation for the Advocate, please, please. And perhaps just to enlighten those who don't know, that is what the DITTC does. Inform you and assist you with your intellectual property. But you have to come from UNISA. That's the office that takes care of the intellectual property within UNISA. And that's how we have partnerships with our colleagues from Adams and Adams. Those are the law firms amongst the many law firms that we work with in the IP office. So if you need any assistance with that, do come to our offices. Before we even finalize with, before you leave, Advocate, may I ask Usia to please come and thank the Advocate officially for taking time out to impart this knowledge. Yes, a round of applause.
Well, thank you. Oh, as I said, must thank him. Okay, thank you very much. I almost said Prof. Thank you very much. Yes, yeah. And I think we've learned a lot. Normally they say you judge your speech by how many questions you get, and I'm sure you could see how much interest you've generated from all of us. So as the DITTC, we say thank you very much, and we hope you favor Sundowns next time in your presentations. But
Oh, sorry, Sundowns.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Advocate. And on to the more technical part of the presentation. The next speaker who's going to also be looking at IP and sports in the digital era, Daniela. I am not going to say your surname because I'm going to butcher it. I'm not going to say it. Actually, before I get into Daniela's presentation, Mama, this gentleman needs to get a prize for his participation. In fact, everyone who asked questions, can I show of hands? No. Aubalo, Sipo, sorry. No, sorry. Sia, Sipo, no, thank you. Thank you. Yes, people who are asking questions. So the more you participate, the better chances that you get to get a prize. Okay. Yes, so while Mama is busy with that, I would like to call up on stage Daniela, who is an accomplished intellectual property and commercialization specialist. Is everything okay there? I'm hearing a bit of... Okay. All right. Daniela is an accomplished intellectual property and commercialization specialist with extensive experience in innovation management, technology transfer, and strategic partnerships within the research and development ecosystem. She's passionate about advancing innovation and entrepreneurship, and she has worked closely with researchers, innovators, startups, and institutions to support the protection, development, and commercialization of IP. Throughout her career, Daniela has contributed into initiatives focused on strengthening innovation ecosystems, fostering collaboration between academia and industry, and creating pathways for technologies and ideas to achieve real-world impact. Her work spans stakeholder engagement, innovation strategy, business development, and supporting entrepreneurs through various stages of growth and commercialization readiness. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniela. Round of applause, please. So that would be the next presentation, the one that we loaded earlier. Right, are we ready with that one? The presentation we loaded earlier? Oh, okay. With me? Okay. Thank you.
guys hear me? Or is it is on? Yes. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. That made me seem much more impressive than I really am. I don't have a cool icebreaker, unfortunately, but I do have a question. How many of you would you consider yourselves to be sport fanatics? Okay, there's a few in the room. And how many of you before today and before this week thought about intellectual property when you heard the word sport? Okay, not so many of you. When we think of sport, we tend to think of the memories and experiences that it creates. Maybe it's the first time that you picked up the hockey stick and attempted to dribble the ball, or maybe it's watching your favorite soccer team lift that winning trophy. Sorry to all the Man City fans. Or maybe, if you're not really a sport fanatic, it could be just having a braai with your friends while the rugby's on in the background. But intellectual property, unless you are an IP attorney, intellectual property and sports are probably not two concepts you think of as going together. But in reality, sport is one of the most IP-intensive industries in the world. Behind every major sporting event, every logo, every sponsorship deal, lies a network of intellectual property rights. Traditionally, we've seen that intellectual property is associated with a team name or merchandise. While these are still very relevant today, as we've expanded into the digital space, such as live streaming or social media and virtual environments, we've seen that the nature and scope of these rights have evolved increasingly. We see new forms of content, engagement, as well as commercial opportunities in the sporting world. So for the next few minutes, I would like to take you through what intellectual property rights exist in sport and some examples of it. And then, of course, how these rights are commercialized within the sports economy, and then the key challenges that they present in the digital age. Okay, so what is intellectual property and why is it relevant in the sports arena? So intellectual property is an umbrella term that we use. It describes the intangible assets, which are the products of the human mind or intellect, and usually they have commercial value. So there's different kinds of IP, but we're just going to focus on copyright, trademarks, patents, designs, and trade secrets. Okay, so first up is copyright. So under South African law and in terms of the Copyright Act, for a work to be protected by copyright, it needs to be, number one, reduced to material form, which means you can't just have a concept or idea, you need to write it down. Secondly, it needs to be original. This means you have to have shown some sort of skill or effort in coming up with the specific work. In South Africa, we have categories of works. So your work needs to fall into one of these categories before it can get copyright protection. There are currently 9 categories, and it includes literary works, musical works, and artistic works, and computer programs, just to name some of them. So once you have one of these works, you have it reduced to material form, and it's original, you will automatically get copyright protection. So you don't have to register for it. Let's look at some examples. So in the spirit of the FIFA World Cup, and subjectively one of the best, is the 2010 World Cup. If we look at the logo and the Zakumi mascot, when these are drawn, they qualify for artistic works. If we look at the official tournament song by Shakira, elements of the song would qualify for musical works, and all of them are subject to copyright protection. If we then go into the digital age, we can see that many different apps have been released. For example, the FIFA app or SofaScore, which is an app that allows you to look at match fixtures, rankings, and so forth. In the software, there's specific source code and object code. We also see in the apps there's a specific layout that they each have, as well as graphics. And all of this will qualify for copyright protection. Okay, next up, we have trademarks. So under our South African Trademarks Act, a trademark is defined as, it's quite lengthy, a mark used or proposed to be used by a person in relation to goods or services for the purposes of distinguishing those goods and services in the course of trade. Like I said, it's quite a mouthful, and in order to understand what a trademark is, we first need to understand what a mark is. So using tennis as our example for this one, a mark is defined as any sign that is capable of being represented graphically. It includes very different forms, but we'll just focus on a few. It can be a device, or more commonly referred to as a logo, such as that Australian Open logo. It can be a name, such as Serena Williams. It can be a signature, that is Roger Federer's signature. It can be a word, for example, Wimbledon, and then a letter. So that is also Roger Federer, he's trademarked that. It can include a shape, so that is the US Open trophy, and it can even be a color. So that color is the Wimbledon green and purple, which is subject to a trademark registration. More recently, and in the soccer world, we've also seen new types of trademarks. So for example, we have Mbappe. He has his signature celebration pose that he usually does after he scores a goal under trademark protection. More interestingly also, we have seen that at the European Intellectual Property Office, it's not only just drawings that are being submitted with the applications for trademarks. In this instance, we have Cole Palmer, and he also has his celebration move where he acts as though he's shivering after he scores a goal. And to get his celebration move trademark, he submitted that video that you can see on the screen. Okay, but going back to South Africa, a trademark acts as a badge of origin. It shows you what the brand is and what the business offers, what its goods and services are. Unlike copyright, the highest level of protection for trademarks is that it needs to be registered. In very simple terms, trademarks are usually filed through an application at the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. It's examined by a registrar, and then once approved, you can get your trademark registered. It is valid for 10 years, but you can also renew it indefinitely. You might have noticed that on some items, you can see a TM symbol or a R symbol and wondered what the difference is. The TM symbol is used for marks or trademarks that are not registered, and the R symbol can only be used for marks that actually have this trademark registration protection. So it must have gone through that whole process. Important to note is that trademarks are also territorial. This means if you register for trademark protection in South Africa, it won't automatically mean you're protected in other countries. You'll have to follow their laws and systems on how to get trademark protection. Okay, next up we have patents. So patent law protects inventions. This gives creators, or inventors rather, the exclusive rights to use their technical solutions. In order to qualify for patent protection in South Africa, the work needs to be novel. That means it needs to be new. It must involve an inventive step, so it mustn't be something that would be obvious in that field. And then it must have industry applicability, so it must be capable of actually being used. In South Africa, we also see that in order to get patent protection, you'll have to file a patent application. And once it's accepted, it goes through a very strenuous process, but then it's eventually registered. Patent, unlike trademarks, is valid for 20 years, subject to renewal fees. During this period, the patent holder will have exclusive rights, so they can choose how to sell it and use it. But once that patent lapses, it goes into the public domain. So they don't have that exclusive rights anymore to use it as they wish. It's also essential to understand that patents, like trademark law, is territorial. So if you file a patent for a patent in South Africa, doesn't mean that you'll automatically have patent protection in other countries. Okay, but for the examples, oops. Okay, we can see here, that is actually an Adidas soccer boot. So Adidas has for many years been patenting their different soccer boots. The reason for this is that there is innovation within how the studs are placed. For example, that has a little sock and it's used for improving speed as well as preventing injuries. Then we also see the Olympic torch. So the Olympic torch has some sort of element in it that ensures that the heat stays within and it doesn't combust. And that has also been subject to patent protection. Okay, next up, we have registered designs. So in South Africa, design rights provide the proprietor with a statutory monopoly over the appearance of a specific article. So we have two types. It can either be aesthetic, this protects how it looks, so the beauty of it, or functional. That protects the features that contribute to how it works. Importantly, the mere fact that an article performs a function does not automatically mean that it has a functional design. It can only qualify as being a functional design if the article must look that specific way in order for it to work. Interestingly, though, is that functional designs are unique to South Africa. A lot of jurisdictions within the country don't actually have that type of design right, and you'll usually try and find that protection through patent registration. In the sports context, then, we see that aesthetic designs find their place. Adidas also, again, for many years has registered as designs the way that the ball looks and the panels used. Here we actually have the official match ball for the 2026 World Cup. So the 4-panel designs has been registered in the European Intellectual Property Office as having design protection. But what is also very interesting about this ball is, as you'll see, there's almost like another little ball within, and it's being charged. So this is what is called a rechargeable motion sensor, and it's used to track the position, the speed, and movement up to 500 times per second. So the aim is to assist the virtual assistant referee with making decisions about offsides or handballs. So this is also quite an interesting invention, and there's no public information right now as to whether they've also registered this for patent protection. As like I said, it's an invention, so if it meets the requirements, it could qualify for that protection. On another note, it has actually raised quite a controversial aspect, as many people are saying that we're taking it too far with adding all this technology to soccer balls. Okay, the last form of IP that we have is trade secrets. So trade secrets are that business confidential information that has commercial value. It must not be publicly known, and those who do know about it need to use all reasonable efforts to keep it secretive. Their value lies in the secrecy. They gain some sort of competitive or commercial advantage. So if their competitors find out about some of the ways they're doing things, it could lead to a loss of income. In the sports context, trade secrets are usually overlooked, but they're highly significant and actually used in almost every single game and training session. If we look at training, for example, it's used in recovery procedures, as well as sports science, nutrition for physical and mental performance and enhancement. We also see trade secrets in tactical play. For example, it's your game plays, how you position your players, how you analyze the match of the opponent's play. So this is always used, but we don't really understand that it can actually qualify as a trade secret. Okay, great. So now we know that there's different types of IP and what they mean. But how do these forms of IP actually lead to commercial value? So there's different ways that you can commercialize your IP. One of the most common forms is through licensing. So licensing is an arrangement where the owner of the intellectual property rights will permit another party to use these rights under very specific defined terms. And of course, for exchange for payment. The payment can be structured through upfront fees or through what we call license fees or royalties. So royalties will be linked to the usage or the revenue that is generated. So for example, if you have merchandise sales, you can add a specific percentage and say, if you make 3%, whatever 3% you make off the merchandising sales must go to the owner. What is important to remember with licensing is that the owner remains the owner. They keep the intellectual property. They're merely letting someone else use it. Licenses can also be exclusive and non-exclusive. So in terms of exclusive, it means that you are granting one person the rights to use it for a specific period, and then non-exclusive allows many people to use it simultaneously. We have seen that licensing has taken on very creative and unexpected forms. If we look at a South African brand, for example, it's the Old School brand. So I don't know if any of you know the Old School brand, but this business began as this informal attempt by two brothers who wanted to create a vintage style apparel, something that you can't really purchase through the official stores. They became very popular during the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and they created the rugby jerseys with the Springbok. As a side, they actually didn't get any authorization to use these trademarks, and it ended up in the South African Rugby Union actually filing for intellectual property infringement. But they then saw that there could be some benefit to allowing Old School to use their trademark, as a lot of people do want this vintage style clothes. So they entered into a licensing arrangement whereby the South African Rugby Union is now allowing them to use their specific trademarks or name marks on items of clothing. We've seen now that the Old School brand has looked at other South African sporting teams, such as Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, and has entered into licensing arrangements with them. They've also now entered into different markets across the world. They're selling FC Barcelona shirts and other basketball teams. What's cool about this is that it shows how one specific brand can form their whole business using licensing arrangements with companies or teams that have already established such a well-known brand. Again, in the sporting industry, we have broadcasting. This is also another interesting form of licensing that we see take place. It determines who may capture, who can transmit and show a match, in what countries they can show it, on which platforms, for how long, can they show live matches or not. As sports has grown into a global commercial industry, broadcasting has become one of the most valuable revenue streams. This is especially true in exclusive broadcasting arrangements, where there's only one distributor who is allowed to show the specific match. In South Africa, for example, and if we look at rugby again, we've seen that the South African Rugby Union has for many years had a licensing broadcasting arrangement with SuperSport, where SuperSport has been the exclusive sole broadcaster, and they're the only ones who are allowed to show South African rugby matches. They've recently entered into a new partnership, and while the details of the partnership have not been disclosed, many have wondered if there will be a sub-license to allow SABC to use it. This is because there is some public interest concern about only allowing exclusive broadcasters to air sports. South Africans quite love their sports, and it's part of our culture. And many have argued that it is unfair to not let everyone enjoy it if they're not able to access channels such as SuperSport. But what we can see from this is that there's definitely value in exclusivity, whether it's seen in a positive or in a negative light. Okay. Next up, we have sponsorships. I won't speak too much about that because it's already been mentioned. And apparently, when people hear Ronaldo, they like to smile. So at least I have that on the slide. But sponsorships are commercial arrangements in which brands such as Nike pay for the right to associate themselves with a sports team. One of the examples there, like I said, is Nike and Cristiano Ronaldo. They've entered into a lifetime sponsorship arrangement where Nike and Cristiano Ronaldo together create co-branded merchandise, but it also has agreements where Ronaldo will have to take part in adverts, whether it be being placed on a billboard or on a social media campaign. This ultimately shows the power of having two important or valuable trademarks being placed together. And we see that it's increasingly becoming used. And with the FIFA World Cup, we'll also see who are the key sponsors of that World Cup. Of course, into the digital world, we also see that licensing plays a vital role. Usually, licensing takes on the same form, but the intellectual property takes on almost a different form. If we take trademarks, for example, we might be accustomed to seeing a trademark that is being placed on a physical shirt. But in the digital environment, this trademark is placed on the shirt of an avatar or a digital figure or something that you can see in a virtual immersive environment space. This has led to new commercial markets where fans can purchase and trade and interact with digital assets. One such example is this game called So Rare. This is a game that has a fantasy sports play element as well as a fantasy gameplay. So in simple terms, users will buy a digital card that has some sort of sports athlete on it. They can then trade the cards to get players who are maybe better skilled at a specific aspect, get the best defender, the best attacker, and they build their team. The team then plays some digital matches, and they can get rewards for how well their team does. What's interesting about this specific game, though, is that a lot of soccer teams around the world have seen that it's an opportunity to enter into a licensing agreement with them and allow them to actually use their teams. This draws people immediately to wanting players such as Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. We also see other examples within the AI and deepfake space, but in a more positive light in this instance. We've seen how in a recent example, Layers and Messi had this campaign called Messi Messages. What it allowed is that users could enter a message that they would want Messi to say, and then also include the language that they wanted in. And using some digital transformation and AI tools, they were able to make Messi appear as though Messi is saying this message. As you can see, there's a lot of different advancements in the space, and it makes you think of what could they come up with next. Although that's quite a difficult question to answer, what we do know is that in the digital environment, it's created huge commercialization opportunities, but it has also led to its own challenges. So just to look at some of the challenges. The first is piracy. Of course, piracy has been around for a while. We see it as the unauthorized streaming, the distribution or reproduction of sports content without permission. We've seen, though, through social media that it can be aired live, and this has led to a very digital increase on how piracy spreads. The example there is Stream East. It is also an unauthorized streaming service that was generating billions of dollars. It has now at least been taken down, but it just shows how quickly this industry can grow. If we go back to the AI and deepfakes example, and again, it appears that Messi is always the subject of this, we have seen that people have used AI and taken past interviews of certain soccer players and used it to create fake scenarios. They've also taken match play and digitally manipulated it so that it looks like different teams have actually won the match. In this specific example that I've put up, it was a Twitter user who said that he heard Messi's voice in some investment and financial platform. But when it was looked into further, it was found that it was not Messi, and they had used his voice without authorization. This, of course, is also very dangerous for athletes who have sponsorship deals with specific brands. If, let's say, we take Messi, for example, and we just saw how he has a sponsorship with Lay's. If some other chip or sweet company had used his voice to create a fake advert or any sort of digital transformation of him, it could go against the sponsorship arrangements and cause conflict there. Okay. But with all of this, and one of the questions that was asked, in this age of digital transformation, what can we do about it? Unfortunately, enforcement remains one of the most significant and ongoing challenges in combating IP infringement in sports. So the key mechanisms that we see is filing for trademark infringement or copyright infringement if someone is unauthorizingly using your trademarks or copyright. If there is a website that's created, there's usually takedown procedures. But now, with content being reproduced and copied and manipulated digitally, as well as being spread anonymously and through rapid means, it's quite difficult to trace where it comes from. For example, that picture was created using ChatGPT. But if it had specific trademarks or players within it, and it had spread rapidly, it might be difficult to go back and find out who is the author of this, who do we actually take action against. As you can tell, there's a lot to be said about IP and sport. And I think I've barely touched the surface, but we don't have time to go into everything. We've seen how different forms of IP exist within sport and how they are actually being used to bring commercial value, but that they also have challenges. Ultimately, we've seen how IP is embedded in almost every area of sport, and it continues to evolve alongside technology and digital expansion. So perhaps next time someone asks you what you think of when you hear the word sport, you might just say intellectual property. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniela. Can I ask you to pronounce your surname?
It's De Figueiredo.
De Figueiredo. Okay. So, yep, there's a question there. Oh, a lot of, okay. Okay. This side of the room. And please keep your questions brief. Like she said, we are a bit behind time, but we are going to take all the questions.
All right, thank you very much, Attorney. I just want to give two scenarios here. So I want you to assist me in relation to cross-border protection. Louis Vuitton once stole Basuto blanket design and then repackaged it and sold it for 33,000. That's scenario number one. Number two, I have a friend of mine, he's a street photographer. He took a picture in Joburg CBD of a child being thrown out of a burning flat. And then that picture was shown on Sowetan newspaper. A week later, made headlines, I think, on New York Times. And then he was angry, but he did not know what to do. Let's say somebody like Ndade Sidibe, for example, decides, I know Chinese are also notorious of that. Let's say Ndade Sidibe wants to take that, this thing, that, and let's say wants to launch international claim against the New York Times and then Louis Vuitton. Will he be protected? And then is there like any form of justice that can be served? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. So in the first instance, for example, you said that Louis Vuitton takes something and repackages it. Okay, in that instance, what Louis Vuitton wouldn't be right because they wouldn't have authorization to do it. But what we see with big brands such as that is even if you have intellectual property protection and you have the rights to it, it's very difficult to challenge it and actually bring in proceedings because it's quite expensive. So in that instance, you would have to first look at, okay, what is the thing being copied and reproduced? Who is the owner of it? Do they have protection in South Africa? For example, if it's a trademark, have they registered it? Have they not? Do they have common law rights? The questions are endless, but you'll first have to find out who has the protection, who can file a claim against them, and then if they have the means to do so. The same is with your second example. So the photographer would have the rights in the picture being taken. Of course, that was then unauthorized use by the New York Times, and the photographer would have copyright protection. But again, the challenge comes when we look at these big international players, is that they have the money. So if you try and go against them, they'll just continue to litigate and litigate. So unfortunately, it is one of those challenges where, and like I also mentioned, we see that there is IP protection, but when it comes to the enforcement part of it, it is quite challenging. And if you don't try and do something about it immediately, it becomes increasingly harder to actually get justice from it. I know it's not the most positive answer, but unfortunately, it's the reality.
Hi, how are you? I wanted to ask more about licensing, correct? I wanted to ask, does the license cover maybe future upgrades, modification, or derivate works of the IP? And my second question was that I wanted to ask, with licensing, as you as the sole licensor and me as the second party, can I have a third party where I, as the second licensor, license the third party? Is that possible?
Okay, let's start with the first question. So this will really go down to the licensing agreement that's in place. So sometimes what we see is in that situation, it would be software that's being licensed. You might have an agreement where any new improvements or derivative works will either belong to the licensor or the licensee. So depending on the arrangement that you have made, the ownership will lie. So you'll always have to look at the terms of that agreement to see, okay, who is going to own the intellectual property that emerges from that? And then, okay, yes. So that will also go down to the agreement that's in place and what warranties and indemnities are there. So usually the licensor will have to warrant that the product is capable for being used, there's no malicious software in it, you'll be able to use it. But you'll often see in these type of agreements that the licensor will say that, you know, we can't guarantee that you'll make commercial value from the product. We can't actually warrant that there will be no other malicious malware that comes when you have it. So again, it comes to the terms. So you'll have to look at that clearly and see, okay, what is being protected? How is it being protected? Okay, and then in terms of your second question, I just want to make sure that I understood correctly. So there's the licensor and they grant rights to you and you want to grant it to someone else. Okay. You're not going to like my answer. Again, it comes to the agreement. The agreement might have sub-licensing rights. If it does have that, that means you'll be able to sub-license it and grant another party to use it. But again, in these sorts of agreements, we'll see that the licensor usually has a term that says, before you sub-license, you first have to ask them for permission because they want to see which party are you giving the rights to. And sometimes they might say you're not allowed to sub-license at all. So again, it really depends on that agreement in place.
Is this recognized internationally or is it something that would be like recognized locally?
It's recognized internationally. So in a lot of software agreements, especially which are cross-border, you'll see the same terms in those agreements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My question to you is related to AI-generated content. So I would like to know if the current copyright laws are sufficiently equipped to deal with AI-generated content in terms of sport.
In terms of sport, so for example, examples of creating some sort of fake AI voice or generated. So in South Africa specifically, there hasn't been any litigation that has clarified kind of how the law will interpret it. So we do have the Copyright Act. And in terms of this act, it says that there must be an author of a work. And that comes down to, okay, does an author mean a person? Can it mean a computer? Is the person who puts the prompt in ChatGPT or other AI the author? And this is actually quite a contentious debate, and it's what led to the Copyright Amendment Bill as well. Well, one of the reasons. So there isn't a set answer yet because there hasn't been something to test the law in the courts to determine whether our laws are sufficient. But what we do know also is that laws are usually behind. So we need something to test the laws in order to see if it actually does work and then take it from there.
Okay, so there is a legal gap, and I don't know, it can be a good research topic, right?
It can indeed. You should definitely do that.
Morning. I would like to ask about football kit colors. I've seen, I don't know which team was it. They were wearing like pink color. So I'd like to know, how do football teams choose their kit colors? And are the designs also trademarked, maybe concerning those colors? For instance, you'll never see Orlando wearing pink kit. So I'd like to know, how do football teams choose colors in terms of those things?
I think in terms of, wait, can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect. So the decision of what color to use really comes down to the team. So that depends on if there is already too many teams wearing red, they might be wanting to say, okay, let's wear blue. That's really just a commercial decision, and it could have a research element to it. They could research what colors are really associated with sport, which colors do people mostly like to see. But yeah, it's a very different answer for every different team. And then you asked if the kit is subject to trademark protection. So it will be the elements that you find on the shirts. So if there is, for example, the Nike trademark next to the Portugal emblem, next to the sponsors of the teams, those will all be trademarked, but not necessarily the shirt.
So it depends on the year.
Yes, because also with a shirt, it's difficult if all the shirts look the same to get a shape protection or a shape trademark, because it's one of those unique elements that are usually, how can you trademark a shirt? It looks like every other shirt. So with that, it really has to have a unique element to it. But yes, I hope that answers your question.
Good morning. Hi,
Yes.
how are you?
Good, and you?
Morning to the rest of the colleagues. I actually have 2 patents with you guys at Adams and Adams
Amazing.
in my own personal capacity, but patents are expensive, right? The renewal costs are what's giving me a problem right now. The sponsorship has ended, so I haven't been able to pay for the patents last year. So how do we remedy this? Have I lost my IP?
So you haven't paid for it, has it lapsed, or is it you're still paying the renewal fees?
I'm still paying the renewal fees, but last year I couldn't pay.
Okay.
Like I said, because it's expensive. So how do we remedy this if this year I have the funds?
I'm not too sure how the patent office works, to be honest, and how they check for how many months you can't pay. You don't have to pay before it lapses. But in those instances, I would definitely just reach out to whoever assisted you with the patent filing, just to ask, what can you do in this situation? And in the meantime, see if you can find some sort of sponsor or someone to assist you with the payment. But it's better to ask the person who filed, so you can also have timelines of when payments will be due. Is there anything that you need to keep in mind? So I am not in the patent department, so I don't deal with the filings, which is why I don't want to necessarily give an answer and then it be incorrect. So I think in that instance, it would definitely be better to reach out to the filing attorney.
Okay, good morning. My question is related to sports. So, like many brands or fundings recognize people from primary schools, high schools, when they're participating in sports, make especially with athletics. So, my question is, in some schools, that athletic thing, sports thing, is just dying slowly, meaning that brands do not really recognize people with potential and talent. So my question is, does underfunding school sports kill future intellectual property like athlete trademarks, image rights, and broadcast content?
Yes, I think the answer to that would be yes. I mean, if you think about a specific young athlete who doesn't have the means to now be able to perform or get funding to be able to develop the talent, it could be a lost opportunity. They could be the next superstar, and then also trademark their name, have a specific logo. But of course, that comes down to looking into ways to find funding for these schools. But I would say definitely yes.
Good morning. Given the IP registration challenges, like there's no formal copyright registry, and also creators don't know how and why to register IP. So what measures are being taken to address the IP registration in South Africa, challenges in South Africa?
I think it's through talks like this to just get people more aware of what intellectual property is, for example, because sometimes we see that we use the term very loosely. We use it to describe every form of intellectual property, and making sure people understand what kind of protection they can get from the IP. So I think as a starting point is just creating more awareness, because if you don't know, you don't know. But in terms of the actual copyright register or trademark registrations, there hasn't really been anything on that front. It's more up to the creator to keep their own record of, okay, I drew this image on this date, this is the software or the applications I used, this is where I store it, this is who I've shared it with, we have an agreement which clearly states that I'm the owner. So it would really be on the creator in that instance. But again, in order to know what to do, they'll have to know what protection they have and how to handle it.
Hello, ma'am. So my question is relating to the patent law, because the patent law disallows secrecy. I think it was the last point that ma'am discussed.
Oh, the trade secrets.
Yes. So the patent law disallows secrecy. For example, if I am correct, let's say ShopRite was to do or impose a new strategy, they are forced to publicize that particular strategy so that it could be recognized, so that they it's not repeated by another company, for example. So how does that go about?
Okay, so first there's the distinction between patents. So patents are inventions that are subject to the patent protection, and trade secrets is more of what you're speaking to. So this is a different aspect. This is that confidential information of ShopRite. There's no statutory law that says they have to disclose these trade secrets. That's their own knowledge. So there won't be any law that says they have to share it or put it on a public platform. So that's the difference between the two in that scenario.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. I just wanted to ask, what are the key reasons of IP
in sport, ne? Like maybe if I combine trade secret, trade secret, trade markers, copyright, and patents in one sentence, in one form. When I combine them in one form, the most important fact, the most important fact according to in sport, IP according to sport, when I combine those.
So do you want to combine them for protection?
Yes.
So because they all have their own unique elements, so the trademark will either be a logo or a name, a patent is an invention, copyright will be an artistic work or a literary work, you won't be able to necessarily combine it and get one type of protection. You'll have to apply for protection for every specific element. So we can see that sometimes they are combined. So for example, the Zakumi mascot, it is the subject of copyright protection in the way that it is written or drawn rather, so the artistic work. And then you can also file that as a logo in terms of trademark law. But you can't necessarily combine all of it into one application.
Okay, maybe if there's another person that I can afford them the opportunity. That's
About cross-border transactions. With regards to the issue of Louis Vuitton, recently Ghana was granted what is called geographic indication for the Kente cloth. So no one can claim that they are making a garment that is Kente which doesn't come from Ghana. The same way that we make brandy, but we can't call it cognac because it's not from the region of Cognac in France. So there's a company called Aranda, I think, which makes blankets with, which are called Basotho blankets. I think until we get to a point where those types of designs and the material itself is given a geographic indication, it's going to be difficult to say or to stop fashion houses from reproducing them and saying that there are new designs and so forth. And even this issue of then it would be what would be our indigenous knowledge type of IP. So I think that's the issue that we are having at the moment. Until we get to that point, we won't stop these guys from. And then on the matter of the gentleman with the photo, that one is a true infringement, you know, because at a publication like New York Times, you know, cannot just reproduce a photo without getting a proper, you know, permission and even accredit that person for it. So I think there are other avenues because South Africa and New York Times is an American company, you know, we are protected internationally by, you know, the Geneva Convention and other international treaties. So there is avenue for the person to get recourse for the infringement of the photo. Thanks.
The short one about the influencers, also the issue of patriotism, when you want to maybe pass information, like especially in this country, we're having a huge problem of drug abuse. Now we would like want to advise, like to wake people up about this problem we're having in the country. So will I expect to say, I gave up an idea, an advertising idea to solve the issue of the country. So do I expect to be incentivized in that regard? Yeah, and the influencers do always have to register everything they do. Thanks.
First question. So how I understand it is you're saying if you share an idea to try and solve some sort of problem, can you be incentivized for that idea? Okay, well, again, it really depends. If you've written down your idea into material form and it's original, then it will be subject of copyright protection. But if you're sharing that idea with someone else to use, you might want to have a non-disclosure agreement in place to make sure that they don't take your idea and use it themselves without keeping you in the loop. So those are the two basic things you need to keep in mind. Okay, and then the last question. So if smaller brands have any aspect of success against instituting trademark or copyright infringement against bigger global brands. So we have seen examples where they have been successful, but because, again, like you had mentioned, the fee aspect and the time period and the almost trying to continuously fight, we have seen that small businesses have just given up or tried to enter into some sort of arrangement where they settle and trying to just get some sort of fee. But definitely it is their IP and they should be able to prosecute and go through litigation fully, but we don't see it as often as probably it should be happening. Thank you.
Well, Sia's up here already. Sia, can you please officially thank Daniela?
Wasn't she great? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Daniela. By the way, I think it was mentioned that Adams & Adams is one of the companies that we work with as a DITDC in managing your IP as students and researchers. So thank you guys for your time, and we really learned a lot today.
Thank you so much. We have officially reached the, okay, actually not the very end of the program. There's one more item. I would like to call on stage the gentleman you will be speaking to when you come to our office about intellectual property. His name is Kangwelo Ratogwa, who is our tech transfer officer at the DITDC. A round of applause for Kangwelo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the one standing before you and lunch. So I can stand here until 1 o'clock. And then we can have a sermon. I nearly said hallelujah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for standing until this time. It's really a pleasure to host you. But before I can just go far, I would like to really appreciate Advocate Sediwe. I think he has already left. For really giving us an insightful presentation. It was very much engaging, which we really appreciate a lot, whereby he was talking about the understanding IP in the sports industry, and then really talking about the fundamentals of IP rights in sports, right? So it was really nice hearing him out. And I learned another word. I normally call it FIFA, but it was called differently today to say it's a FIFA. So it was really interesting presentation, and I hope you really did the honor of thanking him on our behalf. Also to appreciate Daniela for such a wonderful presentation. breaking down all the different forms of intellectual property, which I think it was very much insightful. And I think, I'm not sure if you're in a hurry, but I think after here, this gentleman, he was burning with questions. So I was like to him, hey, relax. You can engage here after. So you're okay. So yeah, at least maybe I'm sure there might be other colleagues as well who want to engage with you. All right. And then, also to talk about different challenges that we are experiencing as the country, from both presentation when it comes to IP in digital era. Those are some of the things that, it's not only a South African problem, but it's a global problem. And we can just appreciate the fact that we have that challenge. And God knows when are we going to have the solutions regarding all those different challenges, But I cannot stop without appreciating you colleagues who really set aside time and really come and have this robust engagement with us. Without you, this event was not going to be successful. So thank you so much. To the MC, should I call you MC or program director? Because yesterday, actually, I learned that there is a difference between MC and master of ceremony and program director. Yes. So I ended up having to go to ChatGPT to really figure out what really is the difference. So I think you can just do the honor of going to ChatGPT yourself and do that homework. The IP will reside with me. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So we really arrived the closing of the ceremony. But thank you very much. We really appreciate you. And I believe and hope that, in future when there is such engagement, please do attend and reach out to our office. If you have any issues related to intellectual property, as a student, staff member, and also people from the public, actually, because we are under TISC, where we are expected to give an advice in terms of intellectual property and innovation. So if you want to reach out to us, please, you can write this email down. It's called innovation@unisa.ac.za. And then we can be able to assist you with all different matters related to intellectual property. Meshia, thank you very much for accompanying Daniela. At least you know the way. So I'm sure you were the one who was directing her on how to reach here. But thank you so much, for being with us. So colleagues, thank you. That's it, Program Director.
So as it stands, I don't know if I'm the MC or the program director. That's left me wondering. Yes, colleagues. So while we were standing outside and saying goodbye to Advocate, some colleagues said, you promised networking, you're not giving us networking. So while we're waiting, lunch is still being organized, still being put together. It's not outside as yet. So while the multimedia team plays music, while we wait for lunch, I will give you an opportunity to network and have conversations with the likes of our Adams and Adams friends. And can our colleagues from DITTC raise their hands? All of them in the room. And Sia. These are people from the DITTC. Remember what I said about our office? This is what we do. So if you have any information about the DITTC, if you have any information about intellectual property, commercialization, protection, all of that, please speak to these colleagues. They will assist you. As soon as lunch is ready, I will come and call you. You can even mingle outside and just have a conversation with each other. Thank you very much. As my how many do we have left? Oh, we have 8 left. Who are we going to give it to? Yes, ask questions. Yes, Daniela, do you, how many people ask questions? Do you? 2, 4. If you've received already, please put your hand down. So 1, okay, please leave your hands up. Oh, do you have a question? Oh, so, to be fair, let's give the hands that are up now, right? And then if someone has a question for the office, or for Daniela perhaps. Oh, there's a question. Oh, there's no question? Do you have a question? Oh, there is a question. Can we give her a mic? Guys, only people who asked questions in the last round, please. Do you have a question, my lady? Can you give her the mic? What's happening now? She has a question. Oh, now okay. Yeah, we'll come to you. Okay, colleagues, let's give her an opportunity. Shh. Let's give our fellow colleague an opportunity to ask a question. Yes, ma'am. Switch it on.
Okay, so I wanted to know, people that for soccer, they were talking about the brand kids.
Branding.
The brand kids that are soccer.
Okay.
I've never seen the team wearing the kit the same color. I just wanted to know why.
Daniela, where's the other? Okay. She's asking that why do teams not wear the same color?
Do they? Yes. Do they?
Is it an intellectual
property?
property?
And say we get to choose color 1 and 2 for home and away, and they. That's my question.
Wait. Okay. So now you're talking about home and away.
No.
Remember, you're asking about 2 teams.
Remember, each team has 2 kids,
Okay.
home and away.
Yeah.
I've never seen 2 teams playing wearing the same color.
Oh,
That's my question.
okay.
Why?
Oh, okay. It doesn't sound like a copyright question. Do you know? Oh, Usipo will. Oh. Okay. Do you have an answer to that?
I think it's just so that it avoids confusion, because if everyone's wearing yellow, then you won't know necessarily who to pass to. So in that instance, a team will have their 2 predominant colors and always make sure that they're not wearing the same one. Yeah, I think they usually have already their home and away kit color, so they'll just use it based off that. If it is the same color, it will just be a conversation. It's not usually a contentious issue.
Okay, there's a question down here. Oh, Osipo, were you gonna add on that one? Oh. Can we keep it down, colleagues?
So every match, every match it's scheduled. So the colors of each team, they are registered. So you would have your home and away and so forth. So before a match plays, they will know that the home kit of the team that they are visiting is black. For example, with Pirates, it's black. So any other team that visits can't wear the same color, just to avoid what Daniela is saying. So you would have to, if your alternative kit as the visiting team is black, you must use the other one so that you avoid the conflict. So, but matches are scheduled way in advance, so you would know what to wear when you visit. So it's within the rules of the association itself. Okay, now if I may pose a question to Daniela. On your
Okay.
second slide, on your presentation, when you were showing the 2010 products, one of them was Shakira's song. We know that she claimed that it was a song that came when she was still sleeping, without acknowledging that the song, it's an old song that was from Cameroon, which was recorded in 1986. So now what recourse would the originators of the song have on their rights being infringed by that person? I know sometimes even when we write doc, I will write a statement that I've not read somewhere, but somehow Turnitin will tell me that Dr. Sia said the very same statement in 1986. So what kind of recourse would one have in this instance where, you know, a song was copyrighted, it was claimed that it was original, and even the artist herself claimed that it was original, yet evidence shows that, in fact, it was copied from in the 80s?
Okay, so that in that instance, if there is evidence to show that, you know, Shakira or whichever artist that's claiming that they're the original writer or composer or so forth of a song, you would have the evidence to show where it actually originated from first. So they can prove that they are the originator of it, and there would be copyright infringement actions that can be taken against the person. But of course, you'll have to go through all the evidence to make sure that they are indeed the true originator. I think that a similar approach is followed in terms of copyright infringement. So the original creator of it would be the one who is able to institute the copyright infringement and prove that they actually are the ones that had the song. But it is a bit more difficult in instances where it's maybe not written down or there isn't an evidence trail. It just makes it a bit more challenging. So I think it's more of a lesson to also be learned in those cases, which is really difficult, especially in more traditional forms if it hasn't been written down. But it is unfortunately one of those challenges that it's difficult to actually provide a definite answer because every case is so different and it depends what evidence is available.
My question is to the DITTC.
Sorry. Colleagues, can you please keep it down? Before you ask that question, he's been waiting, my dear, so sorry.
Thank you so much, Program Director. I am Iroko. I am an innovator from the University of South Africa. Now I am at the last stage of my novelty. I am testing my prototype in order to go for commercialization. So I have designed a bioproduct in order to purify brine wastewater for crops farmers. So now I want to know which type of IP I am going to register, and as well, how much does it cost in order to patent it? Those are my two questions. Thank you.
You said a question for DITTC, right? So I heard the last part of it, but on, yeah. I'm trying to understand what you've developed. Is it a technology? Is it a process of doing things? What exactly have you developed that you said you're prototyping? What is it? Okay, it's fine. So, it's a patent, right? And luckily he's here. There you go, right? Open the mic and answer.
Thank you, Papa.
That's Sabina Pochana from DITTC.